We have to talk about Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks, who are currently 16 and 19. They are 2-8 in their last 10 games. They currently hold the 10th seed in the Eastern Conference. This should not be the case for a team that has made a lot of moves over the last 3 to 4 years to build around Trae Young. And we'll get into those moves that they've made over the last couple of years, but let's focus on this previous offseason. They brought in Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who has been a very good player with the Hawks this season. More on him later on in this video, and he should be in the most improved player of the year category. And then you made a move to bring in Kristaps Porzingis from the Boston Celtics. But this season is different with the Atlanta Hawks. The Eastern Conference was supposed to be wide open with the injuries with Jason Tatum. With the Boston Celtics, he tore his Achilles. He's going to miss his entire season. So you would think the Boston Celtics, they're not going to be the same team, but that hasn't been the case. They're currently the number 3 seed in the Eastern Conference, and Jalen Brown is playing out of his mind. But a lot of teams in the East are hoping they'll take a step back without Jason Tatum. The Indiana Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton, he tore his Achilles in Game 7 against the OKC Thunder. They were just in the NBA Finals. He's going to miss his entire regular season as well. So with those two impactful players missing the entire regular season, you would think that the Eastern Conference would be wide open, that it will come down to certain teams like the Orlando Magic, the Toronto Raptors, the Detroit Pistons, the New York Knicks, the Philadelphia 76ers, if they can stay fully healthy, maybe the Miami Heat, who have been very dangerous in the postseason over the last couple of years with Jimmy Butler, even though he is no longer with this roster. And the Atlanta Hawks are hoping maybe we can build a team around Trae Young. We can be in the same conversation, but they have been in that conversation since 2021. When you go back to the 2021 season, Trae Young was very impactful. He helped lead this organization to an Eastern Conference Finals appearance against Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks, and it was a tremendous playoff run. Trae Young was tremendous all the way through. He had some bad moments against the Philadelphia 76ers. And the same against the Bucks. But overall, he was a terrific player. But that was a different roster. You had Clint Capella, who was a very good rim protector. Amazing in the postseason. You had Danilo Gallinari, very good shooter coming off the bench, and you could put him in the starting lineup. You had Onyeka, who was a very young player. He is now the starting center with the Atlanta Hawks. But it was a different team all around. You had John Collins in the front court to help out Trae Young with those lob passes. You don't have those same players on this roster. And the reason why I bring up that roster in 2021, it was a perfect team around Trae Young because it masked a lot of his problems on the defensive end. Trae Young is a small point guard. We can all see that. He's not the biggest guy in the room. You can bully him around. You can get to the rim on a consistent basis. But it was very hard to get to the rim and score with ease against Clint Capella. He was always there sliding his feet over, rotating his body, and constantly going at the scorer and meeting them at the rim. You don't have that same threat with Onyeka. And even though Onyeka is not a bad defensive player, he doesn't have the same presence at the rim that Clint Capella had many years ago. And the same with John Collins. You look at this roster right now with the Atlanta Hawks. They are still good defensively without Trae Young. But when he's on the court, you blow past him. They don't have that automatic rim protector. You have Kristaps Porzingis. But let's be real here. He's missed a lot of time in his career, dating back to the New York Knicks, the Washington Wizards, the Dallas Mavericks, and even with the Boston Celtics. This time it's a bit different. He's dealing with an illness that he dealt with last year with the Boston Celtics. Usually it's injuries. But if you're depending on Kristaps Porzingis to go out there and play 70 games in the season, it's just not going to happen. He's not going to be consistent every single night. It's impossible. And he's no longer in his 20s. So if you want to actually keep Trae Young around, you have to bring in a center that can be excellent at the rim. But at the same time, I believe that the Atlanta Hawks, they've done everything possible to build around Trae Young. Nothing is working. Since the 2021 season, this team has been a play-in team at best with Trae Young. They can't get over the hump when he's their best player on the offensive end because of how bad he is defensively. Check this out. Without Trae Young this year, he was dealing with an MCL sprain in his knee. Friendly fire from his teammate. He fell down the ground. He ran to the side of his knee. Wasn't anything major. I'm happy for Trae Young. But I'm not happy about this being a Trae Young fan. They are 15-10 without Trae Young in the lineup and without him playing. 7th in defense, 17th in offense. With Trae Young coming back from this injury, they are 0-7, 16th offensively, 19th defensively. In the fourth quarter, they have the worst defense in the NBA. Let me say that again. In the fourth quarter alone, they have the worst defense in the NBA. In that Bulls game a couple of days ago, they allowed over 150 points. They were just targeting Trae Young constantly late in the fourth quarter. He's unplayable on the defensive end. But here's the problem. Trae Young is still a very good offensive player, but he doesn't have the same impact that he once had. Trae Young in the past has been one of the best shooters in the NBA from three. Very good playmaker in the open court. You go back to the 2023-2024 season, shot 37% from three, 43% from the field, 25 points a game. And he averaged 10 assists. But going back to last season, the numbers weren't the same. 34% from three, 24 points a game, 41% from the field, 11 assists per game. That's solid. He's a very good facilitator. He can get his teammates involved. That's playmaking ability. He's one of the best playmaking guards that you can have. But in 10 games this year, 19 points a game, 41% from the field, 30% from three, 9 assists a game. Now, in the past, the Atlanta Hawks offense, they could not survive without Trae Young. They would rush him back from certain injuries. They needed him on the court to help their offense to just be able to go out there and just have movement. They no longer need Trae Young on the offensive end either. You have a very good point forward in Jalen Johnson. He is the best player on the Atlanta Hawks with and without Trae Young being on the court. 23 points a game, 11 rebounds, 40% from three, 9 assists a game, 51% from the field. And the biggest key here is not the scoring, it's not the rebounds, even though that's great for Jalen Johnson, it's the assist. He's able to play make without Trae Young. They didn't have another playmaker outside of Trae Young in the past. And we'll get to the DeJounte Murray trade here in the next couple of minutes. But having a young player in Jalen Johnson, who's in his mid-20s, that can go out there and be your best player in the open court, that's great for the Atlanta Hawks. That's terrible for Trae Young, because now you don't need him. And you have Dyson Daniels. Dyson Daniels, 6 assists a game, 6 rebounds, 11 points. Now, this is the one thing with Dyson here. He's more so of a defensive player. He's taking a step back defensively up to this point. Offensively, he's raw. He's not a good three-point shooter. He's shooting 13% from three. But you know why you have him on the court? To go out there and put a lot of pressure on the best point guard, to put a lot of pressure on the best shooting guard at times. And when Trae Young has been out, remember when I brought up Nickeil Alexander-Walker early on in this video from the Minnesota Timberwolves? This season, he's averaging 20 points a game, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, shooting 45% from the field, 38% from three. They're now finding scorers to come off the bench and playmakers as well around Jalen Johnson. They no longer need Trae Young on the offensive end. He doesn't have the same impact that he once had in terms of helping this team win and push them over the hump. When you go back to that 2021 season, the defense was still terrible, but you had that elite rim protector. But at the same time, Trae Young, he may give up 30 to 35 points in the game. He was going to at least go out there and score 40 points if need be in the playoffs. And if that didn't work out, just the simple fact that he could shoot from deep, he could shoot from the logo, it had opened up the floor for everyone else for those corner threes with John Collins and the same with Aneka. But since the three-point shot is not falling down as consistent as it used to, he can't get into the teeth of the defense anymore because teams have figured him out. They're not letting him get to the rim. The floater is still strong. He can still make certain layups at the rim. But once again, he's a small player that has dealt with injuries in his career. You don't want him just constantly going to the rack and attacking. Trae Young can be a very good player on a championship team if he's your number 2 to number 3 option. He can't be your number 1. And you may say, okay, well, let Jalen Johnson be the number 1 option. It's not that easy. Because like when I mentioned, when he's on the court, teams, they pick him out constantly. They don't have other defenders on the court to help out Trae Young anymore. They get to the rim, they blow past him, or they just shoot over him because of his size. It just is what it is. And this doesn't help the Trae Young defenders here, and I'm one of them. They beat the Minnesota Timberwolves without Trae Young. Anthony Edwards was able to play. A healthy Minnesota Timberwolves team. They beat Minnesota 126-102. They were up by 25 points in this game early on without Trae Young. That is unheard of in the past with the Atlanta Hawks. Usually they'll be down by 20 points because they need that superstar scorer. They no longer need him. And I go back to a trade that didn't work out a couple of years ago. When they brought in DeJounte Murray from the San Antonio Spurs, they traded a lot of first-round picks to bring that man in. This was a huge trade for the Atlanta Hawks at that point in time, and the same for the Spurs. They were a rebuilding team, but Murray, one of the best two-way point guards that you can have. The problem was this. He was a great defender with San Antonio. He came over to Atlanta. He wasn't the same defender. And him and Trae Young, they did not play well with each other. Now, they both missed a lot of time. DeJounte missed time. Trae Young missed time. Then when one player was healthy, the other one was hurt. When they finally got to play with each other, it just didn't look right. They were out of sync. It wasn't natural. When we look at Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown, it's natural right now. They play well off of each other. The same with VJ and Tyrese Maxey with the Philadelphia 76ers. It's a weird fit at times, but overall, it's a very good mesh of talent. With the Atlanta Hawks here, it just never worked out. And obviously, you're going to hold on to Trae Young. It's the reason why you picked him up in the NBA draft. Now, the Dallas Mavericks, they drafted him, but they made a trade to bring in Luka. It's one of those situations to where it's just a player swap and a pick involved on the end as well in that trade. But it's the reason why you brought in Trae Young. You're going to pick him over DeJounte Murray. So they traded Murray to the Pelicans. He's dealt with a lot of injuries in his career with the Pelicans, and the same with the Atlanta Hawks. But that one trade showed us everything about Atlanta. They swung for the fences, and it didn't work out. And then Trae Young went down with yet another injury. They ended up with Zachary Ricochet with the first overall pick. Now, if this was any other NBA draft, he would have not have been a top 10 pick. This was a weak draft class. And the reason why I bring up Zachary Ricochet, he's averaging 10 points a game, 3 rebounds, 1.5 assists, 45% from the field, 34% from three. Even though he's in his second year, he still has a lot of room to grow. But he's just going to be a two-way player at best. He's not going to go out there and be a superstar face of the franchise. You may move on from him. And the reason why I'm bringing all of this up, a lot of reports have come out that the Atlanta Hawks, they're looking to move off of Trae Young and to bring in another defensive piece on the wing or in the front court to push his defense over the top. The NBA is drastically different now than what it was in 2021. The new CBA with the second apron has a lot of teams. They're clutching their pearls. They don't want to just go out there and pay a lot of players a lot of money or pay one player a lot of money on that contract, and it hurts their flexibility long term. You look at Atlanta here. Nickeil Alexander-Walker has a team-friendly deal. The same with Jalen Johnson. The same with Aneka. Everyone on this team has a team-friendly deal. Even Trae Young. They didn't offer him a contract extension this offseason. He was eligible for one. Now, he can opt into his player option this offseason, but it may work out into being a sign-and trade. They're not going to keep him long-term. They want to have more cap flexibility long-term with this roster. They want to be able to go out there and make certain moves that other teams just can't make. And I'm not saying that they're going to go out there and trade for Giannis. I don't think that's going to happen. And I don't think that they're going to go out there and they're going to make a trade to bring in Anthony Davis with the Dallas Mavericks either. That has been a hot name going on right now with the Atlanta Hawks. But I do believe that Trae Young will not be on this roster. And if they do bring in Trae Young, if the Atlanta Hawks, bring in Anthony Davis, it'll be a 3-team trade. The Dallas Mavericks, they don't want Trae Young right now. Kyrie Irving will come back sooner than later this season. Having Kyrie and Trae Young on the court at the same time, that's going to be one of the worst defending backcourts in NBA history. But it's a lot of teams that can still use Trae Young as a scorer. The Miami Heat, they're one of them. They have Khalil Ware, very good rim protector. They have Bam Adebayo, one of the best defensive players in the NBA. And they have Tyler Hero. And this is the one thing with Trae Young here. He can set the table for you. He can organize your offense to the next level. It's just the defense here with him. The Milwaukee Bucks, they could possibly make a move, but I don't think that's going to happen. They have Ryan Rollins, and right now, he's a younger player. He's able to give you more on the defensive end. The Houston Rockets, that's also another team that can make a move to bring in Trae Young. Even though they just brought in Kevin Durant in the offseason. They traded a lot of second-round picks to bring him in. You're not going to trade a lot of first-round picks or even maybe a first-round pick to get Trae Young. If you trade a first-round pick, it's going to be protected. I know that you may look at the name, you may say that's an all-star point guard. He is, but he's not the same player that he used to be. Doesn't have the same impact. You're not going to get 2 unprotected first-round picks for Trae Young. That's crazy. Unless it's the Sacramento Kings, because they're one of the worst teams and one of the worst organizations in the NBA. They may make that move, but that's the only team that may do that because they're desperate for a point guard. And they should be a rebuilding team. But the best fit for Trae Young may be the Miami Heat, the Houston Rockets. They have defenders in place on the back end that can help him out. It is what it is with Trae Young. He'll never be a great defender because of his size. It's not because he doesn't want to play defense. He's tried to play defense. They'll put him inside the pass lane. He'll come away with a couple of steals. It's just one-on-one situations. You play zone. They still find a way to pick on Trae Young. You may put him on the worst offensive player on the team. They're still going to find a way to get to the rim and score on Trae Young or go out there and hit mid-range shots. That's just the way it is. You're just hoping that Trae Young can outscore the person that's trying to outscore him. You're just hoping that his offense can overcome his defensive struggles. And I think in the right system, it can work. But he can't be your number 1 player if you want to win a championship. He may not even be able to be your number 2 player on the offensive end because of how bad he is defensively. But the fact that this team is 0-7, when he has come back from this injury, they've only won 1 game with him this season when he's been in the starting lineup. That's terrible. For this team to go from being 7th in defense without Trae Young and 19th in defense with him being on the court, that's majority on Trae Young. It's not all on him because Quinn Snyder, the head coach, he's made a lot of questionable decisions with the rotations, especially with Trae Young late in the third quarter. I'll just pull him out the game late in the third quarter. I won't let the other team go on the run. But the fact that he's been inconsistent from 3 this year, and the jump shot hasn't been the same, it's time for the Atlanta Hawks to move on. You've reached your ceiling with him. And the tone has changed in Atlanta. And trust me, a lot of people in Atlanta, going back to 2022, 2023, they love Trae Young. A lot of the fans, they viewed him as being more impactful than Luka before Luka went on that crazy run with the Dallas Mavericks by getting them to the Western Conference Finals and then to the NBA Finals. I'm not saying that a lot of fans did this, but a lot of Atlanta Hawks fans were thinking that, hey, Trae Young, he's a superstar. This is our guy for the future. Let's build into him. But the mood has changed over the last 2 years. They no longer feel that way. They don't hate Trae Young, but it's not the same love that he once got. And when you lose the fan base in Atlanta, it's hard to come back from that. He's not a terrible player. If people are saying that Trae Young, he's a terrible basketball player, don't listen to him. They don't know what they're talking about. Very good offensive player. You can say he's one of the best offensive guards in the game. But in today's NBA, that no longer works. Teams are going away from the small guard that goes out there and organizes the offense on his own, and they basically set screens for him. They let him just dominate from 3. You're not going to do that anymore. They get the ball out of your hands. Look at the Indiana Pacers. They play team ball. The same with the OKC Thunder. The Boston Celtics, they shoot a lot of threes. They play a lot of team ball. That's just the way it is. You're not going to go out there in one-on-one situations. You have to get your teammates involved. And you have to be able to go out there and play good defense. With the Boston Celtics, over the last couple of years, great defending team. OKC Thunder, great defending team. The Indiana Pacers had very good defensive moments last year. The Miami Heat, when they were making those deep postseason runs with Jimmy Butler, very good defensive team. I know what a lot of people are going to say. What about Stephen Curry? What about Jalen Brunson? They're not good defenders either. They are more consistent offensively. And they have shown better defensive moments and they have a better defensive skill set than Trae Young. Stephen Curry is bigger than Trae Young, and the same with Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson is wider. It is hard to bully him to the rim. And the same with Stephen Curry with the Golden State Warriors. You try to bully him to the rim, here comes Draymond Green. He slides over. Now, if they do keep Trae Young, and I think that they won't keep him for the remainder of this season, they'll trade him at the trade deadline, you have to put Kristaps Porzingis alongside him. And he looked pretty good against the Minnesota Timberwolves. We know that Kristaps Porzingis, when he's fully healthy, he's a very impactful player. Can shoot the three, can get to the rim. He's a phenomenal blocker at the rim. But the problem with Kristaps Porzingis is just the injuries with him. From everything that I'm reading right now, the Atlanta Hawks are going to trade Trae Young sooner than later. And it's unfortunate because that team in 2021, it was fun. When they went to the Eastern Conference Finals and he gave them hope, that is when he became the villain of New York. But that Trae Young, he no longer exists. And maybe you ship him off elsewhere, he can be a better player with that culture and with that team. But with the Atlanta Hawks, it's not going to work. The fact that you didn't give him a contract extension, he has 1 year left on this deal. He could be a free agent this offseason if he wants to. The Hawks, they're not going to lose him for nothing. And we know this about this organization historically. They love to dish out contracts. Then they'll move off a player. But this time around with this CBA, with it being a second apron, they're not going to pay Trae Young a lot of money for an undersized guard that just can't play defense. But let me know in the comment section below. How do you feel about the Atlanta Hawks, and should they stick with Trae Young? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, I want each and every last one of you guys to stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless.